Hey YouTube, welcome back to another episode of Dirty Dave's Garage. Down in the garage today. Gonna be working on the Jeep, putting in some new audio equipment. Got a new head unit, some new speakers. Got some polyfill, just some cheap polyfill to fill in the sound bar in the back. We're gonna see if that makes a difference. These speakers are actually bigger than the stock. These are 6.5s. I think the stocks are 5 1/4. We're gonna see if we can stuff them in there, just get a little more sound out of it. And also put this new head unit in, which has Bluetooth and USB port, which would be much appreciated to have. But we're gonna get started and get to it, and hopefully this is helpful for you. And as usual, I'll put links to all this stuff down in the description. So stay tuned and watch us as we go along. All right, so to get started, we're gonna have to take out the glove box. Get it out of the way, because we're gonna have to get back there to remove a bolt. You should just be able to slide this cord off, I believe, out of this slide, this little part down here. Just like so, and then it should just drop out of the way. So now we'll be able to get back up in here where there's a bolt on the back of the stock radio. There's a 10mm bolt we're going to have to get out. It's going to be hard to find, but you can reach up in here and get to it. But the first thing we're going to do is pop this little top plate off, and then there's a couple screws under here we need to get out, and then we'll pull this fascia off, and we'll be able to get to these screws holding in the radio. We'll probably have to take out the climate control as well. But we'll be back in a second, show you how we do that. All right, so you're gonna need a little tool of some type to get under this section and pry it up loose. Anything will work, but once you get it loose, just take your time, because you know, if some of these Jeeps have been around a while, this is an 02, and those connectors get kind of brittle and they can break off on you, so don't go crazy. It popped off pretty easy though. You need to get that out of the way so we can, hopefully you can see this, get to these 2 screws up here. Let me take the camera off and get a better shot. There's 2 screws you have to get out. So get those out and we'll be on our way. Okay, so we got the 2 screws out up top. We're gonna grab this at the side here, get our fingers under it if we can, and actually, you know what? We're gonna take the ashtray out too. It should just pop loose. Now, you do have a screw down here in the ashtray, right in this location. You're gonna need to remove as well. So make sure you get that out. And you should be able to just pull up on it. Bear with me. I believe that's the only one left. Don't feel any others. Ooh! I hit the jackpot. And somebody's change from over the years. Here it comes. It is free. Dirty Dave cashed in. It's like I went to the casino. Just dropped a penny down in my 4x4 linkage. That's not cool. Alright, so I'm going to be using a 3/8 and a 1/4 inch nut driver to take these screws out. And we're just going to put them on a drill and pull them out real quick. I'm not going to film that. You guys know how to do that. So I'm going to get those out and I'll be back. Alright, so Dirty Dave got lucky this time. Somebody must have had this out before at some point and removed the security bolt. Now the antenna cable for this, I believe, is really short, so it's going to be tight to get that out. I'm going to go ahead and unhook the factory connectors. Lift up on this tab a little bit, and that should unplug. And it looks like they got a ground cable attached back here. For some reason, that's the one that's short. That's what's holding it up. So I need to get something to get that off with. I don't know if this is the same size. We'll find out. Yep, same size, 3/8. But I can't get in there with the drill, so I got to get a little 3/8 wrench to loosen that up, and then I'll be back. Okay, so we got her out. You got your antenna connector, which is really tight, so you'll probably unhook that last. These two, a black and gray connector, and there's a little tab you'll have to lift up on to remove them. This is just a ground wire. Somebody must have hooked up at some point. I took that off, but they had it attached to the back on this bolt. This is normally the security bolt that I've seen on here that locks it in from the back so nobody can steal your head unit, but don't know if we'll need to reuse that or not. But I'm going to leave the ground wire here because that could come in handy. Probably didn't in my case, didn't need to remove the climate control because they probably had an aftermarket head unit in here at some point and then put the stock one back in when they got rid of the Jeep. So we'll just clean out some of the dust out of here and get ready. I may not put the head unit in yet because I've got some speakers to put in. I've got a powered subwoofer ordered, and we're probably going to have to attach that to the back of the new head unit. But we'll do the speakers next. Lost my antenna cable. There it is. We'll do the sound bar speakers next. Oh, and that just came unplugged. This is just an extension of some type, but you can see it's plugged in right here. Hopefully you can see that. Just want to hook it back up so I don't forget, because your radio won't run without the antenna hooked up for some reason, at least most of the ones I've done in the past. So we're going to work on this speaker bar in the back. I've already taken one out. Walk over there and show you. So this is one of the stock speakers, little 5-inch speakers that they have back here. Oh, I just picked up all my screws I used to take the grill off. I took the grill off up top here. It's just 4 Phillips head screws. They're in the grill. As you can see, there's 4 holes in the grill. There's 4 little Phillips head screws. But I dropped that down. I pulled the stock wire harness out because I got some adapters that plug in so I can leave the stock wiring harness alone. And I'm just gonna stuff that filling that I showed you. I bought that bag of around before we put the new speakers in. But before I do anything, I'm gonna put one of the new speakers up and just make sure those bigger speakers are actually gonna work. So let me try that and we'll be back. Once you get your grill off, your stock speakers are going to come down, and to get them off from the factory harness, hopefully you can see this, there's a little tab here. Just pull up on it a little bit. Try to do this with one hand and it should come right off. Alright, so we're going to remove the sound bar to make it a little easier to put our speakers in. What I've done, if you've never taken your sound bar off, if you look up here, it's covered up with this wrap. It's velcroed in place. Pull that up. There's a little piece of foam, and your wiring to your speakers will be up here, plugged in. There's a little connector up there. Hopefully you can see that white connector. I unplugged mine. It's just a little button here. You push down on that, and it pulls right out. And then you got 2. Let's see. T30 Torx bolts on either side. So I'm going to get them out. Once I do that, it's going to lift right out. We're going to throw it on a table. So we'll be back in a minute once we get it out. Okay, so we got the sound bar out. You can see where I put my sound deadening fill. Did it on both ends. Just make sure you remember which orientation. The flat part goes towards the front, and that's important because with the JBL 629 speakers, these tweeters can be positioned, and you want to know which way you want the speaker to point. You know, I want mine to point towards the front, You can see they're slightly angled where I have them ready. So when they go in, I want the angled part pointing towards the front of the vehicle. So I want them pointing this way. So I'm going to get them hooked up, and then what I'm going to do is I'm not going to use these mounting rings they supplied because I don't think I need to. We're going to go right into the metal that's under here. You can see under this headliner material, it's just a metal plate. Problem is the factory holes I don't think are big enough. Okay, so what I'm doing here to put these speakers in, you can see I've got one mounted over here. I'm only using the grill and the speaker, but because they're a little bigger, they don't quite fit in the factory holes. And this liner, this headliner, is very tough material. When you start screwing things in, it'll twist up on you. So I'm taking a little razor blade and I'm slicing them out just a little bit bigger and cutting away a little of that material so I have a clean spot, clean shot at getting into the actual metal under here. You can see it's all metal. To drill a new hole or to use a self-tapping screw to just mount those things up. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put the other speaker in, and then we can reinstall the sound bar. All right, so we've got the sound bar back in. Installation's reverse of removal. Turn the light on so you can see a little better. I've adjusted the tweeters to point towards the front, kind of at an angle in a little bit. And once I get the stereo hooked up, we'll test it out and we'll move them around to see if it makes any difference. It's not going to point right at us, but while we're in the car, but it's definitely going to sound better than these crappy stock speakers that we took out. Hopefully we'll get a sound sample. I don't know how great it's going to sound on camera, but we'll check it out once we're all done. We're still waiting on a few more components to show up, but I'm going to get back to putting the radio in right now. Okay, so this is the head unit we're going to be putting in the Jeep. I'll put a link to it in the description. Just a Sony. I just got the cheapest thing I could find with extra power. It's 55 watts, and it says extra bass. iPad compatible. Got a USB port on the front, and it's got Bluetooth. So, and it's a detachable faceplate, which is important for Jeeps. You want to be able to take it off and take it with you, so nobody steals your radio. And it wasn't that expensive. It was a little over $100, I think. But we're going to get this opened up and look at some instructions and figure out how to tackle this. Now, it came with faceplate, mounting hardware and a wiring harness, so shouldn't be too bad. We'll be back. Okay, so this is the back of the head unit. Notice we've got RCA connections for the power amp, and I brought one set of wires down for it, but they're the wrong ones, so I need to go back to the house and get one that's got RCAs on both ends, but we're going to use those to connect it to our power amp. It comes with a wiring harness. It's just got one plug once you get everything wired up. This is the wiring harness it comes with, and I purchased a Chrysler Jeep factory type harness, which we're going to tie these wires together and figure out the appropriate colors, get them all connected up so we can plug this into the factory connector and then just plug this into our radio. It makes installing it a lot easier, and if you're not doing it in the car, you can do it all out here and where you have a little room and get everything pre-wired and ready to go. So once we get the wires connected, we'll be back. Okay, so we got the head unit in. I've just got it, I haven't mounted it yet, but I do have all the connections made. And just to review with you, the radio itself, I ordered an extension, trying to do this one-handed, for the antenna cable. The old antenna cable was kind of nasty. This one's a little longer, so it gives you a little more room to plug in and have some room. As you notice, we've got all our connections are soldered and heat shrunk. I've made good connections to the adapters that came. I have two wires here. I have a blue wire that I haven't connected yet, and an orange wire coming from Actually, there's a light blue. This is the power on circuit for your power amp or your subwoofer if you want it to turn on with the radio. Subwoofer hasn't arrived yet that I ordered. I ordered a small 10-inch subwoofer to put under the seat. I also ordered a power amp for the new speakers that we just put in, but after putting it on, this is a 55 watt head unit, 55 watts per channel supposedly. I don't know if I'm going to hook the power amp up. I might just return it. It's pretty loud and it sounds pretty good. This is the orange wire that apparently is for to dim the lights on the factory head unit, which we no longer have. I'm going to read the manual and see if there's some place we can connect that. There's no orange wire coming out of the new radio harness for anything like that. It may not have that dimming feature, and if that's the case, we'll just snip this off and cap it since we won't be using it. Now there is a blue wire coming out, and I'm not sure if that gets connected to the remote line or not. I'm going to figure that out. And but the radio is working. Everything's working. The new speakers are working. I had actually upgraded the front speakers a while ago with some 4x6s, and I put speaker pods in behind them to improve the sound of those a little bit. But so I'm going to imagine once we get the subwoofer hooked up and throw a little more bass in, and this has an extra bass feature. You probably aren't going to be able to tell in here, but it does add a pretty good bit of bass into that into the speakers. But it sounds pretty good. I mean, for a Jeep, I'm not expecting, I don't want something that's going to be obnoxiously loud, but I want to be able to hear it with the top off at highway speeds, and I think this will do that. Nice little head unit. The faceplate is removable, so you can take it with you. But I'm going to get the trim put on it, the mounting plate, and get this thing buttoned up. So actually, you know what? I take that back because I'm going to need to get behind it to hook the wires up for the subwoofer. So we're kind of stuck right now until my subwoofer shows up. Should be here any day, and then we'll show you what hooking that up looks like. Go. All right, so we got the power amp mounted up. This is just a little self-powered, I believe it's a 10-inch subwoofer. It's not a power amp, I'm sorry, it's a powered subwoofer. You can see I've run the lines. This is an extra. I was going to hook a power amp up for my speakers, but this new head unit's got plenty of juice. I don't think I really need it. I haven't run my volume control knob. I just kind of set it for the sub. But I ran the ground wire under this bracketry here, and I used some heavy gauge wire for that. And I ran them under the carpet all the way along under the, I can't really see it, but power line is coming out of the firewall. There's a rubber grommet on the top left driver's side. There's a rubber grommet, and you'll see it under the hood. I've already closed the hood, but where there's other electrical connections coming into the dash, and there's a slot in there. If you push with your finger, you'll feel it, that you can slide your power wire through for your power amp. And I just put it under the carpet, ran it along the side here, and just kept it under the carpet and pulled it up under that carpet there. I didn't even have to cut any holes in it. The other wires, the low level inputs and the power on yellow power on wire, I connected to the back of the radio. You can see the yellow power wire here. I haven't tucked that completely, but I just tucked it up under the console. I didn't even take it out. I just shoved it under there. It went up pretty good and pulled them in the same way. So when the seat's down, you can't see the sub. And it sounds pretty good for what I paid for it. It adds the bass that I needed. And I'm not even going to bother doing a sound sample because it's not going to sound right through the camera microphone anyway, guys. But You know, I got what I was looking for, a much better, plenty loud enough to hear while we're driving down the road with the top down. And it sounds pretty good with those JBL speakers. So if you have any questions, put them in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And we'll see you next time on Dirty Dave's Garage.